And welcome to the Pod Lodge for the inaugural episode of the Super Anime Sports Show.
Anime Sports Show.
And today we're going to be talking about the biggest basketball anime, at least when it comes to shelf space taken up in bookstores, because, let's be real, there's like 74 omnibuses for this thing, which is probably like 17 in a row of one game, just based on how the anime goes, but I digress. We're talking about Kuroko's basketball.
No, the basketball which Kuroko plays.
Correct. I forgot. My bad. The basketball in which Kuroko plays. See, the thing is, I am a basketball expert. Knock on wood. I mean, I say that personally myself, so, I mean, someone's going to argue that with me, but in my eyes, I am a basketball expert, and you are an anime expert.
Oh!
So, what better pair to throw together to analyze something like this than the two of us? You from the anime aspect, me from the basketball aspect.
This is great. This is like a dream team. We're like Jordan and Pippen. That's a basketball reference.
It is a basketball reference, but you're not supposed to be making the basketball references.
Okay, I'll stay in my lane.
And just to prove that I'm the basketball expert over you, I'm going to take a better comparison and say Stockton and Malone.
Oh,
huh?
I know those guys. I saw that in the Last Dance.
If it's not Michael Jordan or LeBron, no, I'm joking. He knows more than that.
I'm a little versed in the NBA, but like I said, I don't hold the candle to you. But yeah, I'm more of I dabbled more in anime growing up. So yeah, I'll really give him the anime aspect of how this all works.
For the quick introductions to get them out of the way, I am Jeff Blagden.
And I'm Xavier Barnett.
And we're here today to evaluate the Season 1 players, or at least the first part of the Season 1 players, because this would take forever if we were to do everyone in one podcast. We're going to evaluate the Seiren players for Season 1. And again, we're basing this off of Season 1. So remember that before you try to rip on us in the comments or anything like that.
Yeah, what we see in Season 1. So we do know that they improve, okay? But right now we're just basing it off of, they got time to grow. Just like a regular basketball player.
We know it's an anime, so they're going to eventually get absolutely ridiculous, and none of it's going to make any sense in reality whatsoever. But at least from Season 1, fairly grounded.
Yeah, not the crazy anime powers don't come out like too crazy just yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff where you're like, yeah, they give them these powers or whatever, quote-unquote powers with air quotes. But realistically, they're kind of more or less substitutions for just being really good at basketball. So we are going to be ranking the Seiren players. However, I will make a note first off. We're leaving one of them off. And realistically, it's because they don't play at all in Season 1, at least not in any meaningful games. They play a one-on-one in which we could rate them off of, but really that's not fair.
Also, spoiler alert for Kuroko's basketball Season 1 that came out in 2015.
So, 5 years, almost 6 years. That's we've given them enough time. It's an anime about people playing basketball. There's not really a whole lot you can spoil.
Yeah.
But without any further ado, let's get into ranking the Seiren players. We are going to be giving you our scouting reports on them, as well as some comparisons, kind of like you would see from a college scouting report going into the NBA, or maybe going into college from high school, something like that. So we're going to have comparisons, we're going to have their grades, and we're going to have overall grades, and you'll see them all on screen as we get through them and everything like that. Let's pick it up with the man who leads the point sort of leads the point. I'll put an asterisk on that for Seiren High. And the king of the hockey assist, for those of you that know what that means, Shun Izuki. Now, the hockey assist, I'll explain first off the bat because this is a basketball-based thing, so you might not know hockey. Not everyone's Canadian like we are.
Yes.
The hockey assist is when you pass to someone else, and then they pass the ball and get the actual assist. Now, in basketball, that gets you absolutely nothing on your stat sheet. But in hockey, you get an assist for that, because most of the time, his passes are routing through Kuroko to someone else.
I always wondered if Kuroko's assists actually count as assists, because, do the referees notice that he's passing the ball?
Do they see
It's always
him?
been a question of mine.
Which you think they'd wonder, why are there only 4 players?
Yeah, all the time, right?
And also, what's to stop him from cheating?
Yeah, just like kicking people in the shin.
Just kick his leg out and trip someone while they're running up court.
Well, we're very lucky that Kuroko has a good sense of heart, and he doesn't want to win that way.
You know what they say, though, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? So, back to Izuki, though. 5'9", 141-pound, pure point guard. Of course, with his eagle vision talent, he can see everything on court. Therefore, we've kind of balanced his ratings more towards the mental aspect of the game. We wanted to keep things to 8 to 10 ratings that we put them into, so we did kind of mix some stuff in together. I'll explain that as we're going. For example, inside game includes some driving as well as post-play, hook shots, stuff like that. That kind of mixes in with shooting as well, balance out, something like that, right? As well as with strength a little bit. So stuff goes into multiple categories for that. But when we're talking about the mental one, it's kind of the hardest one to explain. It's basically, whatever's going on in their heads, right? Like whatever impacts their game on the court that goes through their heads. For a lot of them, that means the powers that they end up having.
Yeah, we didn't want to get into too crazy basketball analytics because then, I don't know if that would be appealing to the anime fans, unfortunately. Maybe the basketball nuts, but...
Izuki, we're going to start with his inside game, which predictably for a point guard isn't necessarily the most important thing, unless you're, Derrick Rose or Rajon Rondo or something. But in Izuki's case, not really a scorer, not really a scoring threat, not really an important part of his game, and not really a part of his game that's really easy to evaluate because we don't really see it a lot.
Yeah.
We don't see him attempt that kind of stuff a lot. You're going to see that a lot as we go through these ratings. The stuff we don't see them try to do ends up with a pretty low rating most of the time. And in Shin's case, this time it gets him a 40 for his inside game.
We don't just see it there. Sorry, Shin. Off to a tough start.
Well, I mean, you got to remember that we're rating these guys against the generation of miracles, which are these incredible players that are going to skew the rating system a little bit so that we can fit them onto the scale. We don't want to give them like 120 out of 100 all the time, right? So
yeah,
you're going to see a little bit of skew when it comes to the players that aren't part of the generation of miracles. But also, if you go and look at high school scouting reports on players that are going into college, they're pretty harsh with their ratings on them most of the time. We're taking it the same way. So 40 for his inside game. We don't see him use it. He's small. He's the point guard. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into his outside game, a little bit better. A lot of that based off of guesswork. We're assuming he's better. We see him shoot like one time in the whole season. So we give him a 55 outside game.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think his shot was... I don't remember the game that it was, but yeah, it was clutch at least. He shoots a lot more in the second season though, so maybe that point will go up, and he'll get some more value.
Moving on into the things that he is kind of good at, passing. Now, we're probably going to take some flack for this rating here because it's not a crazy high rating. It's a 75. Now, here's the thing. His abilities are mostly from his eagle eye ability, from being able to see the court, which is more a court vision thing than it is a passing ability thing. Now, he is a decent passer, so we gave him a 75 for his passer rating.
Yeah. Plus, Kuroko's on the court, and he's always dishing out the more impressive passing as well. So, yes, his passing is good, but compared to Kuroko's, who is a generation of miracle, it falls a little bit flat, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Plus, like we said, he's the king of the hockey assist, right? So
yeah,
his passes route through Kuroko. So the more impressive part is usually the Kuroko end of that.
100%.
Defense, again, is something we don't see a lot of from him, but at the same time, that could be a good thing when it comes to defense.
Yeah. We don't really see his man scoring on him much as well, right? So that's also usually a good thing,
Usually, yeah. When you don't see somebody on defense, it means they're probably doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So we gave him a 50. Now, we can't give him an 80 when we don't see him play defense very much.
We don't see much highlights, you know? We don't see a steal. I think asking a block is too much of him anyways, with given his height. So
I mean, you know what, though? 5'9", when compared to the rest of the team, that's a tall point guard.
yeah.
Like, if you take the heights of the rest of the team, the tallest player on the team is 6'3".
Yeah, I know what. That's fair.
So, I mean, he's only 4 inches shorter than the tallest player on the team. That's, like, very tall for a point guard.
It's big time. Kind of like Ben Simmons, like.
I mean...
How tall is Ben Simmons again? That's not a comparison, by the way.
Ben Simmons is 6'10", so you're right there, yeah.
Yeah, he's a tall-ass point guard.
Ben Simmons, realistically, though, is a power forward who is forced to play point guard.
So he's a point forward.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, he is a really good passer. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, Nikola Jokic is a really good passer, too, and he's a center. So,
Yeah.
In today's NBA, you can be a good passer at any position. You don't have to just be a point guard to be a good passer. However, Shun is a point guard and is a good passer. He's not, however, a very good rebounder.
Oh, no.
We put his rebounding at 30. Now, that's one thing where we said with defense, if you don't see it a lot, they're probably a pretty good defender. It's completely the opposite with rebounding. If you don't see it a lot, probably not a very good rebounder.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen him. I'm almost done the series. I haven't seen him get 1 rebound. So, I mean, if he gets 0 rebounds, I don't know. It's that we can't give him a high rating for that.
You should put it out there, too, that Seiren is really a team of extremes. You know, like,
yeah.
Aside from Kagami, it's like they're pretty much good at one thing, and then they're an extreme specialist for the most part.
Yeah, it's just a team of extreme specialists.
Exactly. And I think Shin actually mentions that in the later, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when they're walking on the beach later and he's talking to Mitobi, he says something about the fact that all he can do is use his court vision.
Yeah. I believe he says that, and that's why he wants to work on something else. So, obviously, spoiler alert, they lose to Daiki's team. I can never say the team name. It's like Taoi or something like that. I probably butchered that, and I'm the anime fan.
Just for a quick reference on that point, for people who haven't seen it, first off, if you haven't seen it, you should probably watch it before you listen to this.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to, that's fine too. As long as you end up listening to this at some point, it's fine by me. We should mention that it has not gotten an English dub. So some of the pronunciation stuff, we're going off of reading it off of a screen, which isn't necessarily great for pronunciation. I would say Tau, maybe?
Tau. I feel bad because I never paid attention to all the other team names are so easy to say. That one just it always got. I just couldn't get it down.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but yeah, when they lost to that team, they're like, oh, we got to work on something than just one other element of our game, right?
Exactly. Now, the element that he does say is good is, of course, that court vision, which we gave into the mental category. And gave him an 85 in the mental category, which it might seem high, but I mean, the ability to see everywhere on the court is what makes LeBron James so good.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big deal, especially for a point guard.
Yeah, that's if you want a point guard to have anything, I feel like that probably is the most important thing, because that will limit the mistakes that they make. And set up the team for success, right? Versus, let's say, like a center.
Yeah.
He has ego vision, but he doesn't have the ball in his hands constantly.
And realistically, if I'm looking for a point guard for my team, the mental aspect of it is what I really want from my point guard in general, not just talking about the court vision, but mental in general, the ability to keep it cool, the ability to inspire your teammates, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's the floor general. He has to have all those things.
Exactly. He's a pure floor general, basically, which doesn't require too much strength. So, he drops to a 28 for strength. Now, again, this is an aspect of we don't see him try to use strength too much, but he's 141 pounds, the lightest player on the team, at 5'9". There's multiple players on the team that are shorter than him and way more. It just kind of makes sense. Since we don't see it too much, let's jump right past it. We're going into our agility/athleticism rating. We give him a 50. I mean, there's no reason to believe he's, a slouch on that end. Before we get into our comparisons, I want to really quickly, and we'll do this for each player, on a scale of 1 to 10, how realistic is he as a player?
Oh, that's a good question. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say he's probably on the, 7 factor. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah, I was thinking 8 as well.
The Eagle Vision's the only thing, like, even then, like, having good core vision isn't, like, terrible or anything like that, but, like, the way they explain his Eagle Vision is a little bit different. Like, he's looking down on the corner, right? I don't know if anyone
They explain it in a very anime way.
Yeah, 100%. But, yeah, honestly, like, he's fairly realistic. I think a lot of the Seiren starters are going to be fairly realistic for me, except for, like, maybe 2. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I think season 1 they stay pretty grounded for Seiren for the most part.
Yeah.
So, moving past that, rounding everything off, putting it together, we put his overall at a 52. Now, like I said, the ratings are going to look low for everyone who's not in the Generation of Miracles.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing 2K, whatever, 2K21, and you're playing that ultimate team, he's one of the early cards you get in the pack. You're not very excited because you wanted that Opal LeBron James, but unfortunately you got Shinizuki.
On that note, since we kind of just jumped into it anyway, what's your real life comparison here on our scouting report?
My real life comparison for him? I'm gonna give him Derek Fisher. Reason why Derek Fisher is because he was a good leader, good court vision, just knew what to do at the right time. He never really he didn't average many points or anything like that, but he always came up clutch for just his mental leadership and everything like that. So that's who I'm going to compare him to.
Yeah, Derek Fisher, good, very very clutch, very good player. Play devil's advocate here by saying he's probably a better shooter.
Yeah.
Which is what I took into aspect when I came into my comparison, and I'm putting out Sean Livingston. Now, Sean Livingston, great role player on some championship teams, a very sad kind of career, I could say. It could have been a very sad career, but he did kind of turn it around and fit into the role well. As a lot of people know, he was highly touted coming into the NBA. Was pretty good for his first couple years. Showed signs of improvement enough that he could become a pretty top end, or maybe not top end, but a higher tier point guard in the league. Had one of the most gruesome injuries I have ever seen on a basketball court in my life. Was, along with most people, shocked he ever even came back to the league. He did manage to salvage a pretty good career, a long career, ended up with Golden State, was a key part of winning some championships as the backup point guard on that team to, of course, Steph Curry. So for me, it's Sean Livingston for Shinizuki. Moving on, we move into Seiren's captain, and the guy who really, I suppose you could say, before Kagami and Kuroko showing up, was kind of the focal point of the team.
Yeah, the main point of their offense. He kind of still is one of their main point of their offense in the first season as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's their main outside game, at least, right? I mean, he's probably their second leading... he's definitely their second leading scorer.
Yeah. For sure.
So, we put him at small forward. Now, here's the thing. When you watch the series itself, they're going to put him at shooting guard. They're going to reference him as the shooting guard all the time. Now, the reason we put him at small forward is because I took that whole basketball logic thing into the equation here. They put Kuroko's position as question mark.
Yeah.
Now, let's be real. Who are you going to want to put at shooting guard? The 5'10", 150-pound guy, or the 5'6", 140-pound guy?
That's a good question. I think I'm going to put Hyuga.
Exactly. Realistically, you're putting the bigger guy at the small forward position. So, in light of that, we put Junpei Hyuga, the captain of the Seiren basketball team, at small forward. And moving into his ratings, now his inside game, we don't see too much of. And for that reason, we put him at a 50.
We think it's at least average. I think the saying goes like if he's like he's their clutch shooter, right? So if they need a clutch basket, he takes it. He'll take the shot. So yeah, I think inside 50 is fair in my opinion.
Like you said, he's the clutch shooter. So when we go into his outside game, it's obviously going to be his highest rating. Now, we did talk about giving lower ratings to people who aren't in the Generation of Miracles and that kind of thing, but Hyuga's shooting is pretty on point. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
We might see him miss 2 or 3 shots throughout the entire season, and when it comes into the fourth quarter and into the clutch in that, he pretty much always hits it. Aside from that one shot, against whatever the heck you want to call Daike's team.
Yeah.
Aside from that one shot, everything he takes in the fourth quarter, he hits. So, you got to put him up there as a pretty clutch shooter.
I mean, like, he's not. It feels really good if you're passing to someone like that, and then he just gets the open shot, and then.
Yeah, like the catch and release kind of guy. Like we said, the second leading scorer on the team, so he's got to have some offensive capabilities, right? That being said, we do actually see him pass a couple times. I was about to say we don't really see him utilize passing either, but we do see him pass a little bit. Nothing fancy, but not really super subpar either. We give him a 46 for his passing.
Yeah, his passing, he only passes if he doesn't think he can take the shot. That's the only time we see him pass. So it's not like an insane pass. He'll find the closest target or the easiest target to pass to. So it's not like he's doing an insane bounce pass or behind the back pass or anything like that. He's not pulling some Kuroko moves.
Exactly. We see him pass the ball to move the ball up court sometimes. Nothing that's really like the pass to the assist or the main pass or anything like that, right? Which, makes sense when you're essentially starting 2 point guards. So yeah, 46 for his passing. Moving into the defense, again, he's the captain. Everybody respects him on the team, so you gotta figure he's at least decent at defense. We do see him get a couple steals early on in the season. That kind of fades out later on when it starts to focus more on specifically Kagami and Kuroko. But we do see him early on when they're trying to drill into your head that he is the next best player on the team. Does have a little bit of defensive ability. So we put him at a 68 there, which is actually good for, I think, 3rd on the team. So,
hey, that's not bad at all.
Actually, I think it's 4th on the team. Because I was going to say I think it's the best on ball. Well, you know what? I'm still going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to say he is the best on ball defender on the team. Because when I say that, we did give one person a higher defense that is an outside player. But we'll talk about it when we get there without spoiling it when we get to that point. But he doesn't really play on-ball defense as well as he does off-ball.
Okay. I like that. I don't know if I agree with that, but I like it.
Even me saying that, though, really makes my comparison seem pretty bad. But rebounding, we do see him rebound a couple times, but it's nothing. It's usually wide open when there's no one else around him type deal, right?
Yeah.
So put him dead even right out of 50.
Yeah, it's pretty much, he's rebounding like my like my 2K player where it's just the rebound that had an awkward bounce all the way to you, and you're like, oh, a free stat, okay.
We did give him a pretty good rating for his mental game. He is clutch, so that goes into the mental aspect. He, for all intents and purposes, seems like a good leader, so that goes into the mental aspect as well, the leadership capabilities. So we put him at a 70 for his mental.
Yeah, he seems like the kind of, just from his attitude, he seems like the kind of guy that'll light fire under the asses of his teammates, right?
Yeah, I believe it was said a little bit later that while the coach pushes, he pulls.
That's a good comparison.
Moving into strength, and using a quote from the show. See, I'm not all basketball. I did watch the show. Moving into strength, again, we do hear his strength referenced as subpar in the show. Someone, it is brought up. It's a one-off line, but we also don't see any reason to believe otherwise. So we have his strength.
That's fair. I haven't seen anything that has crazy strength from him, so, and I don't think I ever have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same with his agility and athleticism. We see it referenced as not being the best,
Yeah.
but he makes up for it with other aspects of his game, most notably the mental aspect of it. But he's probably a little bit quicker than he is strong, so we give him a 50.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He's a catch and shoot shooter, right? So, I mean, his athleticism isn't that much needed for his aspect of his game.
Although you got to include some reflex in there for that, right? So I think the 50.
Yeah.
The
So
50
50's fair.
Yeah, exactly. So that puts us, for his overall, we got him at a 61, which is actually pretty damn good for a non-Generation of Miracles or Kagami player.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I wish I was a 61 in 2K.
So,
We need to add a anime version for 2K.
spoilers, I think we're going to do that when we get into later episodes here. We'll build a team
Oh.
and have them play against each other. But
yeah.
that's a later thing. That's a later thing that you can look forward to. So 1 to 10, how realistic?
I'd say Hyuga might be a 7. Cause yeah, I've never seen cause he rarely ever misses. Like, I don't know what his shooting percentage is. It must be like in the 80s. Right? So I don't know if that's usually most players are like, their shooting percentages are probably going to be in like the 50s to 40s, in between that.
Usually in the 40s, somewhere in
Yeah.
the 40s, yeah, for the most part. Unless you're a superstar, you know.
He's not even the best shooter in the entire series. So yeah, I'd say, now that I think about it, he's down to a 6 for me, for realistic.
See, here's the thing, though, is that we don't see full games get played, right? So, while, yes, we don't see him miss, I feel like,
That's true.
you know, he misses some. There's no way their scores are ending up like 88 or something like that if everyone hits every shot, right? We don't see a lot of misses
that's fair.
in the series. Like, the only time you see someone miss is when they're trying to drive home a point or if it's a blocked shot. Going off that note, I'm giving Hyuga a 10 for realism. I mean, there's nothing really that jumps out in his game that doesn't seem like something a real player could be. You know, he's clutch. Okay, there's lots of players that come up in the clutch that aren't the best players otherwise, right? You know, Robert Horry made a career out of being that guy, right? Derek Fisher, like you said earlier, he made a career out of being the guy who plays in the fourth quarter, and that's pretty much all he does, right? So, and the fact that he's a really good outside shooter, I mean, we see it all the time. There's lots of three-point specialists. You know, you got guys like Kyle Korver, right? That all they do is shoot threes, right? Like Duncan Robinson on Miami right now. All the guy does is shoot threes, right? It's a lot like that, and I don't see any reason to think that he's not very realistic. He's just a good leader who can shoot well. So yeah, I'm gonna say a 10. That being said, real life NBA comparison.
Real life NBA comparison, I'm gonna say Steve Kerr. Just because of I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty from The Last Dance. Jordan kicks it out to him, he hits the shot. Hyuga's the same way. You kick it out to him, he'll hit that shot and he'll put the nail in the coffin. You can count on that. Bet that's his ninja way. That's for all you Naruto fans.
There you go. I told you he's the anime guy, right? So you got to see some of those references coming in there. I also picked Steve Kerr for him, and it's pretty much the exact same reason. He just doesn't miss threes. Steve Kerr has the best, second best career 3-point percentage in NBA history. He had multiple seasons where he shot over 50% from 3. I think he had 4 seasons where he shot over 50% from 3, which is a record by far. I think Kyle Korver has the second most with like 2. So the fact is, all he did was shoot, and he was good at it, and he did it in the clutch a lot, and that's pretty much exactly what Hyuga does.
God bless Hyuga. And you know why? If you realize his last name is the same as a certain Naruto family. That's why I got the Naruto joke. There we go. See? I'm an expert.
All right. Moving on. We're not talking about Naruto here, all right, guys? If you couldn't tell, Naruto might be one of my least favorite animes. Yes,
Whoa.
feel free to rip on me for that. I don't care.
You're trying to lose viewers. At least say Boruto's the least favorite, because everyone can agree with that.
See, but I've never attempted to watch Boruto. Most
You're
likely
smart.
because I don't really like Naruto. I wouldn't necessarily say intelligence comes into the equation. But, moving on to the starting center for Seiren High, it is the 6'1", 172-pound number 8 Rinosuke Mitobe.
Ooh, perfect. You pronounced it perfectly.
See, I'm pretty good at that. Except when it comes to whatever the hell the team Daiki plays for.
Yeah, no one's good at it. I don't think anyone says the team name. They just say Daiki's team.
Anyway, his inside game actually isn't that great for a center. We don't really see him post up too much. We don't see him get into the key too much. We see him take some hook shots in that, but most of them are kind of like the dream hook style, like the Kareem ones, where it's technically kind of a mid-range shot more than it is inside. So his inside game, we give him a straight 50.
Yeah, just straight 50. Nothing, can't complain here. Like I said, his hook shots are like the Kareem sky hook, so it's more like an outside shot, which is why. What a great segue.
We put his outside game at a 60. And it was a great segue. See. He's taking notes here, folks. He's learning the segue game too.
Yeah.
We're on to his outside game, which we did give a 60. Which, you know what, for a center, it's pretty good.
No, that's pretty good for a center, right? That's something you kind of need. I feel like in this season he might be the third highest scorer.
You're probably
maybe
right.
in this season, I want to say, so that's decent for your center to be the third highest scorer. Yeah, I'd say it goes Kagami, Hyuga, and then Mitobe.
Considering the other two starters probably average 0 shots attempted per game. Yeah. I mean, the other two starters we've seen attempt 1 shot combined in an actual game in the entire series. So, season. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's fair. And also, you know, it goes hand in hand with Kagami, because if they were both trying to be in the post and be that post-up guy, they'd get in each other's way a lot, especially with the style Kagami plays. So they fit really well together, actually. And here's the thing, too. Again, the guy who we're not rating from Seiren is obviously going to take Mitobe's spot. Everyone can see that coming. And he's probably better than Mitobe, but he's the same way from what I've seen in that he's not really inside focused. So it works well with Kagami.
Yeah. You don't want to get in Kagami's way. He likes to do the...
Yeah, I mean...
I forget what it... I hate when they call, like, when he jumps from the... when he jumps from the free throw line and they call it a layup. They're like, oh, it's a layup. I'm like, what? He's dunking from the free throw line. What do you mean a layup? Well, that's just me.
Moving on to the thing that other guy we mentioned probably beats him at the most, the guy who's going to take his starting spot, which is, of course, passing. Yeah. We gave him the lowest we could possibly give someone for passing, which is a 25. Now, we don't really see him ever pass the ball, and we don't really have any reason to believe he's good at it either.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of centers, and obviously it's one of the big things that's changed in today's NBA is the centers have to know how to pass properly. And I believe this was made before the today's NBA was taken into account, so yeah, I'd say he's probably be a terrible passer.
And you're going to see that it's good that you note that, because you'll see that when we get into our comparisons for him, because my comparison in particular is a guy who was pretty much exiled from the league for exactly that reason, despite being a multi-time All-Star. But yeah. Moving on to the thing that Mitobe is actually good at, and probably the best on the team at, aside from maybe Kagami. But here's the thing. So it's defense. But here's the thing. Kagami's probably a better shot blocker, but Matobe is probably actually the better defender.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Kagami's defense is more flashy, and Matobe's
His
is...
athleticism gives him the edge.
Oh, for sure. Matobe is more like that silent defender that you don't really notice, because, like, he doesn't get any stats. So
he's the fundamental defender.
Yeah.
He's the guy who is actually good at defense, where Kagami is the guy who puts up the defensive numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Basketball people. You're with me on this one. Anime people, maybe not. But basketball people, you know that blocks and steals are a terrible stat to measure how good someone is at defense, because most of the time, if you're getting a steal, it means you've let the person get past you in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? In the NBA, at least, right? And it's the same with blocked shots. Most of the time, the guy who's blocking the shot isn't the guy who's actually defending that person. It's the help defense that's rolling over to block that shot, which, again, is a good note with the Kagami thing, in that a lot of his blocked shots are very likely because Matobe is playing good defense on the guy, and Kagami is rolling over to block that shot, right? The fact that he's there to play good defense makes Kagami's defense look that much better.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great way to analyze it. See, this is why we have the basketball expert.
There we go, right? So we gave him an 85. We never actually said what the number was. We gave him an 85 for defense, which is the highest, tied for the highest we've given anybody for any stats so far, and I think deserving.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
Because we do hear them talk about how good of a defender he is too, right?
And he also noted that he taught Kagami how to defend someone that's bigger than him as well. So that's a big...
There you go. Nice point.
I watched the anime a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously I have, but...
Yeah, I mean, you got a great point there. On top of that, we do hear it mentioned that he is the defensive specialist, and his specialty is not biting on guys that are taller than him, right? Like, he's good at guarding the guys that are taller than him, which is good when he's 6'1", which is the second tallest player on the team, but also the other centers that we see that they play against are usually taller than him.
Yeah.
And sort of the best example of that I can give is on Daiki's team, where they have that other big guy with the blonde hair who is really big. And
oh yeah, the guy that gets pissed off all the time.
You want to, they lead you to believe is a good player, right? Is a really good player. And Matobe defends him pretty well in that game. I mean, I think we see him score 1 point in the game. Now, to be fair, the second half, Daiki pretty much takes every shot.
Yeah.
But before Daiki shows up, he doesn't dominate or anything like that. So you give it up. Moving into his second best ability, and I mean, I guess we're just kind of pulling at straws giving him this rating here, because again, we don't see it a lot.
Yeah.
We do see it a couple times, and we do see one thing to take note of is when he does get out rebounded. We do see him kind of get angry at that, right? And get surprised at that a little bit, which leads you to believe that despite the fact that it's not a focal point, we don't see it a lot, he is a pretty good rebounder. So we give him a 72 for rebounding.
Yeah, no, who else is going to be rebounded? It's either Kagami or Renosuke, right? So it's not, I don't think it's going to be Shin because he's up in the court. Kuroko, he's the shortest player on the team.
Also, the also, there is, Satoshi is quoted as being the rebound guy. So him.
But he's not starting, right?
But yeah, in the starting lineup. Right, exactly. 72 there. Mental, we give him a 43. He doesn't even talk, really. So it's hard to really judge what his mental is. And we do see him get angry when he gets out rebounded. So we'll give him 43 on that one. Strength, again, probably pretty decent, so we give him a 70.
Yeah, you need strength to do proper defense, especially for a center. You're going to need strength and need it for rebounding, so it only makes sense that the strength is at that.
Especially when, like you said, he's noted for being able to defend people bigger.
Yeah, that too.
Now, on the other hand, we do see that he's not a particularly athletic guy. He's the only guy that Kuroko consistently outruns coming up the court every single time. So we gave him a 30.
Yeah, it's a really good measuring stick that Kuroko can outrun him. 'Cause, yeah, Kuroko's not the best runner.
Although, to be fair, when I say that, there is a mention later on in the season that kind of surprised me, that Kuroko is apparently actually pretty quick. Which, okay, I mean,
Which is strange.
yeah, I mean, because you see him running out of, maybe it's just his stamina that's bad. Because you see him running out of stamina coming up the court a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's all good for a 54 overall for Matobe on our rating scale. Now, 1 to 10 realism.
Now Matobe, I feel he's the 10 out of 10 for me. There are guys that can defend bigger guys than them. Purely defensive specialists, a lot. I forget who said it, but I know I shouldn't compare to NBA, but like there's a thing about as long as you're really good at defense, you can always have a spot on an NBA team, right? So that's what one guy said. I forget who. I think it was in a 2K game, to be honest. I heard it. Probably 2K13 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so yeah, I'd give him a 10 out of 10 in terms of realism.
I tend to agree with you on that one. I'm gonna give him a 10 out of 10 as well. Going into our comparisons, mine for him, I went with, and I already spoiled it a little bit. I went with Roy Hibbert. Now, Roy Hibbert is a 2-time All-Star who was pushed out of the league because he can't play in today's NBA. He just doesn't. This is not his style. It's not who he was. He was a good interior defender who could rebound pretty well. And that was it. That was his entire game. And that's pretty much Matobe's entire game. So I went with Roy Hibbert.
I went with someone who a little bit different and a little bit the same. Tyson Chandler. Same thing, very good at defense. He was on a couple of, especially in his twilight years, he's on a couple of different teams. But yeah, same kind of deal. He's kind of just like the old school center that couldn't really find a place in the new age of NBA, unfortunately.
Former defensive player of the year, multi-time all-defensive player. So yeah, I mean, that works as well. I have no arguments on that one. Moving on to the bench now. Yeah, that's right. We're going to build the anticipation and leave the two big ones for the end. But we're going to kind of go quickly through these bench guys here because we don't really see a whole lot of them. First up is the backup small forward / 2 guard, basically the backup wing, 5'7", 148 pounds, Shinji Kagami.
Yeah. Oh, great. Shinji, the one that with the weird mouth. I don't know why his mouth is like
the cat mouth. Why does every anime have to have somebody who has either a cat mouth or fangs?
Yeah.
Like, I don't
That is a
get
very
it.
good question.
Every single one.
They love Nico's there. Nico means cat for you anime fans.
Nyan Cat, the small forward. His interior game, we gave...
His sister has that too. The little cat mouse. I was like, oh my god.
It runs in the family. The interior game, we gave him a 45. Don't really see it too much. Not much else to say about that one. Outside game, we gave him a 65. We see it a little bit more, but still, he doesn't get much screen time. So it's really hard to judge.
Plus, that's his strong point they mentioned as well, right? They said he can shoot from anywhere, just not very well.
He can shoot from anywhere. He just doesn't shoot a particularly good percentage. I think we might have went a little bit high here on the next three, but again, lack of being able to evaluate it, we can't knock him too much. Passing, defense, we gave a 50 to both of those for him. Again, mostly just because we don't see it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Shinji might be... I feel bad saying this. Sorry, Shinji, but you're probably the worst player on the team.
To be fair, there are those 3 first years that never play.
Yeah, they don't count.
Rebounding, we gave him a 40. Again, not enough evidence to do anything else with that one. Mental, a 28. I feel like the fact that he shoots so often from anywhere, despite the fact that he's not really that great of a shooter, you kind of have to take into the shot selection part of that and be like, okay, that's got to knock his mental aspect. So we gave him a 20.
I knew you were gonna mention the shot selection, but yeah, I'm in the same boat with you because I was gonna mention that, but I'm glad you did.
Strength, we gave him a 55. He is a small forward. He is 5'7". He is 148 pounds. Sure. And athleticism, we gave him a 65. Kind of the same thing. It's, we don't have any reason to think he's worse. We don't have any reason to think he's better. Again, we probably went a little bit high on those two. But it is what it is. Realism, I don't know if we should even bother with the bench guys. I mean, to me, it's, I don't know, an 11 out of 10 because, let's be real.
Yeah.
There's nothing to knock here.
Yeah, there's a billion players like him. He's if you want to go realism, Shinji's probably your guy.
Who you got for your comparison for your NBA?
I put Daniel Gibson. Pretty much just not averaging much coming off the bench. Just shot a couple times, get a couple points. Try to change the general flow of the game, and that's about it.
Now, careful ragging on Booba Gibson here. We might have some Cavs fans.
Oh, fair enough.
He's a Cavs hero, as we all know. Yeah, but I went with Tayshaun Prince. Just the fact that he's just a guy who's just completely average, puts up very middling numbers, plays some minutes. Just seems like a small forward. Obviously, the defense isn't going to compare to Tayshaun's, but realistically, it's hard to come up with a comparison for this guy otherwise. So I just went with the best kind of middling, do-it-all kind of guy I could come up with. Also, shot a lot of shots, a lot of threes, despite being kind of a low 30% three-point shooter for most of his career. So I think it's fitting there. Now the backup big man. The power forward / center, 5'9", 154 pounds, the rebounding expert, Satoshi Tsuchida.
Satoshi, our boy Satoshi.
We really don't have any reason to believe he's good at anything aside from rebounding. And they pretty much say he's not good at anything other than rebounding. So let's just run through it. Let's just run through it. Inside, we gave him a 40. Outside, we gave him a 46. Passing, we gave him a 41. Defense, we gave him a 38, which it feels unfair, but again, we don't have any evidence. You say that you thought Shinji was the worst player on the team. I think Satoshi is the worst player on the team. So, rebounding, we did give him an 83 because, again, it's his thing. He's a rebounder. Mental, we gave him a 40. Strength, a 70 because you got to box out to get those rebounds. You got to have a decent amount of strength to do that. And he is only 5'9", so which is the same height as their point guard, right? So he's got to be decently strong. Agility, a 38. Realism, again, I got to go with a 10.
Yeah, he's a straight 10 out of 10.
My NBA comparison for him, Reggie Evans. If anyone watched basketball through the late 2000s to the early 2010s, and that, Reggie Evans was the guy who was exactly that. He rebounded, and that is it. That is the only thing Reggie Evans ever did on a basketball court was rebound and foul people. So that's my guy.
Yeah, my comparison is pretty much Ed Davis. Yeah, he's currently playing. All he does is rebound.
He's the current day Reggie Evans.
Yeah,
he's the prototype Reggie Evans.
Yeah, he's the prodigal son. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's pretty much all he does.
Moving in to the two big ones.
The guys everyone wanted to see.
Carry Seiren's team.
The light.
The guys who you're tuned in here to listen to.
And the shadow.
Skip ahead to 55 minutes into the podcast to get to the guys that you actually want to hear about here. Not saying you don't care about Hyuga and company, but let's be real. The big man, the man in the middle for Seiren, the starting power forward, also plays a little bit of center here and there. 6'3", 181 pounds, the big man, number 10, Taiga Kagami.
Yes, the man with the intense eyebrows.
And the red hair, of course.
And the red hair.
The American has to have red hair. Or the pseudo-American, I suppose.
Yeah. Of course, he dyed his hair crazy. He's from America. They're crazy.
The man who is the only one who can stand on par with, or close to on par at least, with the generation of miracles, is inside game 99. I mean, it's bread and butter.
Yeah, he just dunks like crazy. I mean, he can jump from the free throw line and dunk it. That's what more do you want, right?
He can literally touch the top of the backboard. Like,
yeah,
that's some Danny Green shit there. Like,
he's breaking. He's breaking the freaking. And he's in high school.
Let's take into account the fact that he's 6'3", too. I mean,
yeah, he's not even like insanely tall.
Yeah, so 99 for his inside game. His outside game now, it's, to be fair, we don't see it a lot, but we do see it sometimes. And it isn't the worst thing in the world. We gave him a 65.
I feel like that's one of the things that he has to improve on. But I think he can. And he will. Spoiler alert.
Passing, not his bread and butter, like the inside game. We see him make one pass in the entire first season. He does get an assist on it, to be fair. He passes to Hyuga in the game against Daiki's team. Mm-hmm. And he gets an assist. So, I mean, he is third on the team in assists. So, with one. So we have a 46 for passing.
Oh man, that kills me. But yeah, sorry, his pass is just that's something he needs to learn. He's more about me. He's like, I'm the one that has to save this team. You know, that's how he feels right now.
He's a ball hog who only respects one other player on the team. So
yeah,
it's fair to give him that 46. Defense, like we said, a good defender, probably benefits off of Matobe's defense quite a bit. Blocks some shots. Most of this is probably the block shots that goes into this rating, to be fair. We gave him an 80.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the block shots really carry, number one shot blocker. Taiga Kagami.
Rebounding, probably his second best skill after that inside game. Well, yeah, no, you know what? That's fair, because the athletic stuff I'm not counting as a skill. That's more a talent, I suppose. But I'm going with rebounding as the second most dominant thing he does. I gave him an 88.
Well, the 88 stands with me. He's a really good rebounder because, spoiler alert, Kagami's strongest strength is his jumping ability. You know what goes really well with jumping? Rebounding.
There you go. Don't ever become a basketball coach. The first thing basketball coaches will tell you if you're a big man is that if you have to jump for a rebound, you fucked up.
Well, that's funny you say that because that's where you got knee problems.
There you go. To give you a little bit of some coaching here on the basketball end of things, your rebounding should come from boxing people out, getting lower than them and pushing them back behind you so that you can get in front of them for the rebound, not so much jumping ahead for the rebound.
See, that's why I'm not the expert.
Mental, we gave him a 40. A lot of this has to do with the patience, also the fact that he doesn't pass. Thinking isn't a big part of his game. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it is a part of his game. Just thinking about his teammates isn't part of his game. Like you said, not good.
Angry a lot.
Not good shot selection.
Well, I don't know. He does. It's hard to say that though, because he kind of does have good shot selection because he does get open for the shots that he takes, and he can do the things he does, and he rarely misses. So I mean, is it bad shot selection if you hit them all the time?
Well, I mean, depends on who you're playing.
Like, is Steph Curry shooting 5 feet behind the 3-point line bad shot selection?
No, because he can hit that.
There you go.
I meant more like just defending when Daiki's defending him. He just kept trying to drive against him instead of like kicking out to maybe Hyuga who's open or something. So that's more what I meant for like shot selection. But yeah, against other teams, it's not bad shot selection because he can power through that, right?
And again, a lot of that goes into the anger aspect of it too, because the whole reason he does that against Daiki is he kind of wants to prove to Daiki that he's on his level.
Unfortunately,
which doesn't work out well.
I don't think anyone's on Daiki's level at this point.
No, but also like trying to outshow Daiki is kind of what got him more injured in the first place.
Yeah, the only one that can beat me is me. Classic Daiki line.
Now, based on his incredible strength and his incredible leaping ability, and the fact that he's actually really, really fast for a center as well, both his strength and athleticism we put at 100.
Yeah, they're maxed out, which is insane for a high school kid.
But like we said, he's on par with a lot of the Generation of Miracles players, so or at least with, Kuroko and Kisei, right? So, Kisei at this point. So
yeah, no, for sure.
It's his thing too. Also, like the guy can jump and touch the top of the backboard. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And based on that, of course, his realism factor for me is like, I'm gonna say like a 3, because like there are guys who can do that.
Yeah.
But they're not 6'3", and they're adults.
Yeah. They're not 14 years old. I don't know what the starting age for year 1 is in high school for Japan. But yeah, he's a 14-year-old just getting into basketball, high school basketball, right? So, yeah.
The guys who can do that are in the primes of their lives.
Yeah.
So what are you saying for your realism?
Realism, same. I was going to go 2. So I'm around you. I'm still a little bit maybe a little bit less realistic for me, but yeah, I'm the same way for your reasoning, but just a little bit higher.
And we both went with the same comparison on this one. I'm revealing that early for 2 reasons. One, because we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but also because it's you probably guessed it already, just based on what if you know basketball, you don't even have to be a big basketball fan to guess this one. We both went with Zion Williamson.
Yeah. And it's hilarious that we picked Zion Williamson because, yeah, he also has issues with his... Was it Zion Williamson's knees that he has issues with for jumping too much because of his body?
He has foot concerns as well, which are due to his weight, obviously. I mean, and I'm not one of those guys who's going to go out there and say that Zion Williamson is fat or like something like that. He's, compared to like a normal person, he's in pretty damn good shape, right? But compared to an NBA player, he has some conditioning to do, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But also, when you have the pure athleticism that he has, when you can jump like he can, when you can run like he can, despite the fact that it looks weird as fuck when he runs, he is pretty quick. But nobody can deny his leaping ability. Nobody can deny his strength. And it's tough for a body to handle those things when it's not in peak athletic conditioning. And I feel like, Kagami's getting into the groove of that whole peak athletic conditioning thing as we get to the end of Season 1. But again, we don't really get to see it in a real game in Season 1. So we're kind of not including that in it so much. So I think Zion Williamson is a great comparison for him.
Oh, I think it was amazing when you said that. I'm like, wow. The more and more you talked about it, I was like, oh, yeah, this makes a lot more sense.
And now, the man himself, the namesake, the blue-haired kind of freak, really, with the eyes that kind of scare you.
I mean, like, if he wasn't playing basketball, he definitely would have became a serial killer. I'm just putting that out there.
To be fair, he does straight up steal some dude's dog.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we completely ignore that through the whole season. Nobody even brings it up. Everyone's just like, okay, we're fine with this. He just jacks a dude's dog. and then they like hide it at a school too. Like he doesn't even take it home with
Yeah,
him.
they're like, yeah, this is our mascot now.
And the best part
Why don't
is
you guys ask the owner?
the best part is the justification behind it is it kind of looks like him. That
Oh
gives
my
you
God.
the right to steal a dude's dog.
I guess so.
So yeah, maybe he is a little bit high on the psychopath scale there, but he is for our system, the starting two guard, the starting shooting guard / point guard though as well for Seiren High, 5'6", 156 pounds, number 11, Tetsuya Kuroko.
Tetsuya Kuroko. It's funny that you mentioned that he doesn't use his abilities to cheat, but he does use his abilities to commit crime. So that's probably why he got the dog. So, he's thinking outside of the box. He doesn't want to win basketball games. He just wants to be filthy rich.
Dude's just walking his dog, looks down, it's gone. What the hell happened? Where'd it go?
Where's my dog?
Dude, where's my dog? Now, that being said, he doesn't take a shot the entire season. A shot or a layup, at least not in a game in the entire season. He does in some pickup games and some practices and that, and even those he misses. So both his inside and his outside we put at a 25, which again is the lowest we're giving.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's literally the running gag. The first episode, you see like, oh, he's part of the Generation Miracles. He must be really good. And then Kagami tries to play him in a one-on-one, and he's just complete dog shit.
And we do hear later on too, I forget who it is that says it. Forgive me. I think it might be Shintaro. But someone does say that without his passing, he's a below average player.
Yeah.
So that being said, because without his passing, he is a below average player, and with his passing, he's a member of the Generation of Miracles, the second best player on Seiren, and realistically, the guy who makes Seiren's offense work, even more so than Kagami. Kagami's the best player and the leading scorer, but really their style only works because of Kuroko.
Oh, for sure.
So we give him 100 for passing.
Kuroko's the shadow to Kagami's light.
After all, it is Kuroko's basketball.
I know. The basketball which Kuroko plays allows Kagami to shine.
And his defense, we give him some leeway on defense. Gave him pretty good defense because he picks off a lot of passes. So he might not be the best on-ball defender, but he's a pretty good off-ball defender, and a lot of that is to do with his whole lack of presence thing and that too. People don't see him coming into the passing lanes, but you know what? I mean, he gets some steals. He's pretty good on that end, so we gave him an 80.
Yeah, the fact that no one notices where he is, he's stolen a couple of balls, right? He even stole a couple off of Generation of Miracle players, so he's not just a pretty passing face.
There you go. I mean, pretty or scary, one of the two. Rebounding again, 25. He's tiny, not really very athletic.
Yeah, he doesn't have the strength to rebound.
Okay, not very strong. Let's put it that way. Not the best rebounder. Again, a below average player without his whole. I mean, realistically, you could make use of the whole lack of presence thing to get some rebounds if you really wanted to. But what's the point when you have both Kagami and Mitobe in the paint already anyway? So, yeah, I mean, 25 for his rebounding. Now, here's where we've got some explaining to do. Because the Generation of Miracles are better than normal people. All right? So most of the players on the Generation of Miracles are going to have a statistic that is just insanely good. Now, for Kuroko, we know it's his lack of presence, but he also, and really there's nowhere else for us to put that in except for mental, but also he seems to be a decent enough leader. He doesn't lose his cool. He doesn't give up. And he keeps improving, and he pushes his teammates to keep improving, and he does inspire his teammates, and we see that in the game against T. So we give him a mental rating of 105, which, yes, is higher than our 100 cap. So we give him 105 out of 100.
Yeah, that's how good he is at that. And he's always in the right spot at the right time. You know, that classic anime main character where they just come at the right time to save the day. That's Kuroko. So...
And he's got to have a little bit of that eagle eye aspect there, too, just based on the passes that we see him make, right?
Yeah, the core vision and everything like that, you know?
Now, strength, it is said many times that he is not strong. When the coach goes over and looks at all the players on the team, he is the most underwhelming in terms of strength. And to be fair, just even the way that he's drawn is skinnier than all the other players, despite the fact that he's heavier than a lot of players that are taller than him, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, that's the strangest thing.
But because of all that, we gave him a 30 for strength. Now, the only reason we didn't give him a 25 is because some of the passes he throws are pretty hard. And he does throw, like, full court lobs. Although he does have to do, like, a full spin in order to get it to go that distance, which is kind of evidence to both ends of our argument here. But we give him a 30 for strength.
Maybe that's the anime part of it. You know, they always have to, like, anime up it. Like, oh, this is an amazing shot.
Fair enough. Now, for his athleticism, a lot of this has to do with the reflexes. You know, he gets into position, grabs the ball off those passes really quickly, swings them over to another guy super fast. So his reflexes are top tier. And on top of that, we do hear someone mention, again, I forget who it was, but later on in the season, that he is actually fairly quick. So we give him a 92 for a junior.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. You know, he's doing top-notch things. To get to a ball quickly and intercept it while it's passing is no easy feat, right? And he just redirects it like it's nothing. So that there takes a lot of athleticism just to be able to do something like that.
Exactly. Realism.
I don't think there's a player on the court I've ever heard of that like no one never notices at all. So I'm gonna. I think Kuroko's a 2 as well for me. Maybe just because like just the lack of presence and everything like that.
Honestly, like not only is his ability unbelievable, but it's also probably the best out of any of the Generation of Miracles. If he would just become a better basketball player,
yeah, he'd be unstoppable.
Exactly. So I'm going with a 1.
I was about to go 1, but I was like, I'll be fair, because he does get more ridiculous as the time goes on.
Fair enough, but like, if there's a cap. At a certain point, like LeBron James was a 99 overall rating, and it's like we can't give him a higher rating than that. Yeah, he got better, but he's still a 99, right? So I feel like this is still a 1 on the realism scale. However, for the comparison, there is a real guy, one of my favorite basketball players of all time, who I immediately thought of watching the first episode of Kuroko's of the basketball in which Kuroko plays, which for me is Jason Williams. Now, this is a name that if you're not a massive basketball fan, you might not know. But Jason Williams is the best passer I have ever seen play in the NBA. Now, he got overzealous a lot of times and turned the ball over a lot because of that. But go and look up a YouTube reel of his highlights of his best passes, and you will be astonished because he's just ridiculous. He always was. Now, on top of that, he was never good at anything else other than passing. Ball handling, yeah, he had a bit of ball handling as well, but he wasn't particularly quick. He didn't play good defense at all. He was a terrible he had terrible inside offensive game. He was a better shooter than he was inside, but he still shot like in the 30% most seasons of his career. So yeah, for me, Jason Williams I think is a good solid comparison for season 1 Kuroko.
Season 1 Kuroko for me is gonna be a little bit more modern. People probably have heard of because of his father. But yeah, it's gonna be Lonzo Ball for me. Yeah, Ball's great at passing. Has pretty decent defense. But yeah, his shooting is terrible, like subpar. He has, I don't even know if he fixed his terrible like shot, like his ugly shot. That's the way he just.
His form is pretty bad.
Yeah. Right, and it's pretty funny because like in this later season, Kuroko's form is just as bad, but it goes in. But spoiler alert. But yeah, so I thought Ball was the inappropriate for me, but I can really see the Jason Williams comparison as well because yeah, after watching the highlight reel, it looks more like the way Kuroko would pass a foot. I was gonna say football instead of basketball. I was watching too much Ballers. Sorry.
Now the only argument I'd make for Lonzo is that Lonzo's a pretty good rebounder. And he is very fast. So there's that aspect of it. But yeah, otherwise, if I was to pick a modern player, a current player in the NBA to compare him to, yeah, Lonzo would probably be one of the ones close to the top of my list. So there you have it. That is the Season 1 Seiren basketball team scouting report. In case anyone was going to play against Seiren and really wanted a scouting report. We will be moving on into the rest of the players in Season 1 as we get into our next one here.
The Generation of Miracles are going in.
Now, that's not going to focus individually on teams just because of the fact that we don't have enough screen time or information with a lot of the other teams' players aside from the Generation of Miracles aspects of them. So we will be rating the Generation of Miracles as well as some other players thrown in there as well that we do get enough screen time in when we get to our next episode. But for now, that is our inaugural episode of the Super Anime Sports Show.
The Super Anime Sports Show?